But miracles don't always change people's minds.
Say what? So we can see facts, but miracles won't change people's minds?
Yes. Which in atheist debates, you may have seen people that want to say, oh, I don't know what would change my mind, but an all-knowing God would change my mind. Okay, what if we rearrange the stars to say, you, person by name, it's me, God, believe in me. Well, I could be delusional. I could... it could be aliens.
It happened by chance.
It's a trick. I'm only seeing what you're forcing me to see. All these things. Yeah. But what about miracles? Miracles can change people's minds, don't they? Right? If you see something strange, you see a floating man, and you're like, "Oh, floating men can exist." Right. Or you go, "Oh, this is a trick of a light. This is not really what it seems. It's a drone that only looks like a man." All these things can come into it. So consider the book of Exodus. God did a series of miracles in Egypt. He sent plagues to the Egyptians. The early plagues were well-placed philosophical attacks upon the Egyptian gods and the way they looked at life. Did the facts, even the miraculous facts, change the worldview of the Egyptians? That's the whole story. No. Did it change hearts? No. Did it change their way of doing things and their way of thinking? Not at all.
Right, yeah. And so, he says... again, you can come to you can use a rescuing device, right? Strange things happen in the universe, right?
We can change things into snakes. We can turn water into blood. This is just tricking. Not that we trick, but Moses definitely tricked us.
That's right. And so he says, let's imagine that, he's talking to a naturalist. That's a person that says that nature is all there is, the physical world. The physicist who doesn't believe in God and doesn't believe in miracles. I start hammering, he tells us, at him with evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. There is considerable historical evidence for it. It's very comforting. It reaffirms the faith. He's glad that the evidence is there. But I keep throwing these facts at this naturalist, asking him, so what do you do with that? Right? After fact, after fact, after fact. Finally, the naturalist says, he tells us, okay, I don't know what to make of it. Historically, it does look as if, you've got to grant that this man, Jesus of Nazareth, came back to life. And now you breathe a sigh of relief and say, I guess I got that one, right?
He's a believer. Minimal facts worked, and everything's really good. But what he says next is that, strange things happen in the universe. Stuff happens.
That's right.
Okay. One of these days we'll be able to explain it. We just have to, it's the God of the gaps in the other way. We just have to exist long enough where we go, oh, we've got it figured out. This is how, Jesus' body just, it sank into the stone because the earth is really porous there, and what looked like he disappeared, he did disappear. And then someone came about and said, oh, I know what to do. I've heard of all Jesus' teaching, so I'm going to pretend to be Jesus and be super important to the disciples.
Someday we'll be able to explain.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So he threw facts at him again and again, but he did not change his underlying philosophy. Every time he got one of those facts, he just threw it over his shoulder into what was for him a bottomless pit of facts that don't fit his presupposition.
And so the point again is that he's trying to make, and he's hammering this home, is that facts really don't do it, right? We have to get at the underlying presuppositions. He says most people will not get as far as to admit, okay, that's right. He says, if you just throw facts at them, most people will not even accept that a fact is a fact. The philosopher says, no, that can't be. That doesn't fit in my worldview, so it can't be a fact.
There are still people that believe Jesus didn't exist.
That's right. And so they'll kind of bat it down. So, even when you throw the best evidence, he tells us, that you've got for the resurrection of Jesus at them, they can take it and say, big deal. Right?
Yes. The reason for that is they haven't changed their philosophy. Their worldview stands and it comes into conflict, and so they dismiss it or say it's not possible, or my worldview can explain why you're able to accept this.
Right.
They haven't changed their mental outlook, or to put it in fancier terms, they haven't changed their presuppositions.
Right.
The things that they bring to the table, that they look at the world through. They see the world in a particular way, and all you've given them is more grist for their mill to interpret the world in that way. You throw miracles at them, and they try to give you a naturalistic explanation of the miracles.
Right.
And that's what people try and do with the Jesus seminar, or people that want to give so much away and say, okay, well, some things in the Bible are changed. We'll admit that. But for the Red Sea, the strong wind prevails a lot, and it pushes up the silt, and it creates a walking path sometimes. We know this historically, and so that's what happened at this time. And so they're just attributing to God what's happening naturally. Will you believe then? And you might get them to say, okay, I might believe that happened. But what is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is to say, Jesus is the resurrection and the life. No man can come to the Father except through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. If some silt moves, we need an overhaul of mind, soul, body, spirit.
That's right.